What's up, guys? This is Brent with Western Equipment. Now here today we have one of our customers here that runs a See & Spray sprayer with the See & Spray and ExactApply technology. So we are going to be asking him a few questions, getting his opinion on a few things to hopefully help us all better understand what this technology is, what the benefits of it are, and how maybe it could help other operations. So stick around with us and we'll get started. Can you tell us about your spraying operation? How many machines do you run, hours per year, and acres covered per year?
Yeah, so here on the farm we run two See & Spray sprayers. This year we have one ExactApply broadcast rig, but in years previous we have run two machines, each averaging about 400 hours a year, covering about 40 to 50,000 acres a year.
Gotcha. How long did you run traditional broadcast before switching to the ExactApply and then eventually See & Spray?
Yeah, so I started back on the farm back in 2016. So I started in a broadcast rig at that point, a traditional broadcast rig. Ran from 2016 to about 2019 is when we were introduced to the ExactApply system, and we transitioned that machine in 2019. Started running ExactApplies in 2019, and when the See & Spray was brought out, we brought one in. So ran traditional broadcast for about 3 years, and then hopped over to the ExactApply and haven't gone back since.
Right on.
So
why did you originally make the switch to ExactApply?
The reason we made the switch to ExactApply was because of the boom recirculation, the new technology there. We run a lot of clay-based chemicals at the start of every year. That's our pre-emerges, from atrazine to, at that time it was called Acuron for a corn pre-emerge. And what we found in the traditional machines is that after we run those chemicals, you can clean those machines out every night. You know, you can run water through them, but the way that the chemical flows out of those nozzles, it comes up and then out of the nozzle. So there would be a layer of clay on the bottom of all those booms. And when we go into, contact kill herbicides, if you're in cotton, you're spraying phytogen, 2,4-D, stuff gets held up in that clay in the bottom of that boom. So like say you hit a rut going through a sprinkler, it shakes stuff loose and you'll see a little bit of 2,4-D damage on a FiberMax or something. So when that boom recirc came out, you keep that chemical flowing through that boom at all times. And there's no silting out. We didn't see the contamination issues. We wouldn't have to shut a machine down, open that traditional boom up, clean every single section out, put it all back together, fight leaks for the next 2 days if a clamp didn't get tightened or yada yada yada. So that boom recirculation was a main driver for us going to that ExactApply system. The next big deal was our pattern control. I can set that ExactApply, I'm going to put it out at 50 pounds, and if I'm going 2 mile an hour or if I'm going 12 mile an hour, it's putting out 50 pounds. So when I enter a field and I start, I've got, instant, 45, 50 pounds right at the start of the field. I'm not, just slowly moving into a field, like when you start moving, accelerating, you start slow. I can, we're going to get a perfect pattern right there on the edge of that field. We're going to hit those weeds at just the right, with just the right pattern. So we see a better kill, things like that.
Right on. So, I think it'd be safe to say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that it's made a positive impact on your operation.
Absolutely, yeah, very positive.
Is there anything that you'd say maybe is not positive that you've seen from the ExactApply system?
There's a lot of wiring. Those nozzle bodies can go bad, and when they go bad, it's at about 1 in the morning. Right at the most inopportune time, right before a rainstorm is, a rainstorm is popping up. I've got 50 acres left. I'm going to have a nozzle body, break down on me. We try to keep a nozzle body in our locker at all times, just in case, just for that reason. Because the way that these systems work is if one nozzle body goes bad, everything else down the line from that nozzle body is going to fail.
Right.
So we could lose half a boom. Been there, we've have to shrink our swath width to get through a field. It's just what we've had to do to cover that field before the rainstorm shows up. But that is the one downfall. I wish there was like a fail safe, like a fail back, like
maybe
hey,
a bypass
that nozzle
or
failed,
something.
like it just goes into a broadcast mode. Hey, no more pulsing. It just opens them, and we just go into a traditional boom setup. It It maintains, maintains pressure, watching your ground speed, stuff like that.
Right.
I haven't got to that point yet, but that is one of a downfall, and that's what scares people off, is like, hey, we had this nozzle leaking by, or this stopped working, and it's hard to sometimes fix. I mean, it's not just a
swap it out and go.
Yeah, there can be other issues. So, and we've seen them, we've dealt with them, but for the most part, I mean, the boom recirc, the boom being instantly hot when we get to the field, because we can load up here, turn the pump on, it's recircing as we get to the field, unfold, maybe hesitate just a little bit, and then go into the field. Your boom's hot. You don't have to go out to the pivot road and waste 20 gallons of chemical on the ground by just getting the boom hot.
Right.
You don't have to, the clean out at the end of the night, the reclaim, product reclaim. I mean, it blows all the chemical back into your tank at the end of the night. And then I just run a little water through it at the end of the day, just basically flush the nozzles, and I'm ready to go for the next day. I mean, we just don't see chemical waste. I mean, all the chemical.
And that's what it's all about.
Yes,
sure,
absolutely.
For sure.
I mean, I've seen chemical savings with an ExactApply.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredible piece of technology that we've been real happy with.
Right.
There've been downfalls. There've been nights where I'm real frustrated with it, but for the most part, the pros outweigh the cons right now. So.
Well, and I think you've already kind of said this, but what are the top 3 reasons why ExactApply should be considered over traditional sprayers? And what were the pros of your experience? I think you kind of already hit on this, but if you could name 3, 3 main reasons, what would those be?
The boom recirculation, number 1. That has just saved us as far as labor to clean out. I mean, it just keeps the clay products in suspension better. We've got the product reclaim at the end of the night. I can pull all that chemical back into my tank, and I don't waste any chemical on the ground. We just rinse the nozzles out basically. And then just hitting our rate every single time. I can put a new operator in this machine that has a very little sprayer experience. I can set it at the 10 or 20 gallons, whatever we need to put out. I can comfortably know that thing's going to put out 20 gallons. There's no like, hey, check that rate. Because if you start slow, you're going to be over applying, be at really low pressure. And then if you're going too fast, you're going to be getting low rates and really high pressures. But with the ExactApply, it'll make it work.
Right.
I mean, with the pulsing technology, I mean, we hit our rate every time within, a hundredth of a gallon per acre. So it's just awesome technology for new guys. The boom recirc, I don't have to worry about those booms not being hot when I get to the field. And we see a mess right there on the turn row where we started the field, and the product reclaim at the end of the night. I mean, there's 30 or 40 gallons of chemical in that boom that we waste every night in a traditional sprayer, because we have to blow it out. Got to get it out of the boom. We can't reclaim it. We just got to get it on the ground.
Right.
So I'm saving 30 or 40 gallons a night, and if that's 10 gallons an acre, I mean that's huge. That's 4 acres of chemical that we're just blowing out every night.
Right.
So. I don't know how, I haven't looked at how many times I've cleaned a sprayer out over the course of a year, but I mean, that could be 100 acres worth of chemical that we blew out over the course of that year.
Right.
That it just went to the ground and was waste.
Right.
So, I mean, huge. I mean, there's chemical savings, absolutely.
So we talked about the con, we talked about the con of the sprayer nozzle. Any other cons with the ExactApply systems you can think of?
Just the wiring. These booms fold up and unfold. Again, I don't know, hundreds of times a year, and the wires get stretched, and I've seen them get pulled out of the pins. I've seen them get pulled out of the connectors. That's the longevity of the machine. That's what I worry about. We trade these off, every 2 years, and I think in 2 years sometimes that's kind of that we're getting pretty close to the end of life on some of those.
To your point.
And I start getting a little nervous about it, about the connectors and things like that. So that's another con. The software in the See & Spray, I'm just talking about the See & Spray here, with the Gen 4 system that we're running currently, it's a little bit, there's not enough memory or something. They're not fast enough to handle the See & Spray working and trying to manage the dual tank system. I see a lot of lagging once you get about 500-600 acres in the screen that you've done. You can see it. You'll pull into a field and you might cover 100 foot, and the maps just stop, and then it'll catch and it'll go. That's a little bit I've lost coverage because of that problem.
Gotcha.
So the technology, it's like we're advancing a little bit past what the screen is built for in the Gen 4. Now I know that the Gen 5 is coming out, and the new See and Sprays have them, and I haven't been able to run one of those, but we'll see that fixed, see if it is there.
Right.
But I've been told that's what should be happening.
Right.
So, but yeah, technology is just the software is just a little bit slow, and then just all the wiring being constantly pulled, and then running through a field at 12 mile an hour, bumping around. And I'm not going to say we haven't hit the ground. The booms will touch the ground if you're going over a terrace. That drag back, and
sure,
just they're machines. They're got to be tough to go through a farm sometimes. So,
right.
2 years would be I'd be really wanting to look at that machine, make sure it's ready for another year.
So ExactApply technology obviously costs more than a non-ExactApply machine. Can you discuss the cost savings of the technology, and did one outweigh the other?
I've never run an ExactApply with a broadcast rig, like just minus, okay, we had broadcast rig 1 year, traditional broadcast rig, and then we have the new ExactApply system. I know our chemical savings has improved, with the ExactApply system. Just because we're not wasting it on the ground anymore. But as far as the price of the traditional rig versus the price of an ExactApply rig, does that outweigh it in a year? It depends on the amount of acres you're going to cover. If we're covering between 40 and 50,000 a year.
Over time, though,
yeah.
Over time, as you see this, you guys say, usually 2 years. What you've seen in 2 years.
Yep.
Would you say, that it outweighs? Does the chemical savings, outweigh the cost of the ExactApply system?
I think we're right on the edge. I need to look at the price of a traditional rig versus the price of the ExactApply system now, and see where our chemical savings is at.
Right.
It's as fast as we're having to go across things, and as fast as I'm having to bring operators in and run these machines. If I had a traditional rig and we had a guy that didn't know what he was doing, and we over applied a field, the ExactApply would. You would have saved money right there.
Right.
Right. The training and things like that on these machines is just a lot faster than a traditional rig.
Well, that's good to hear. That kind of leads into the next question. Is kind of, how hard is it for an operator that hasn't ever ran one, maybe that has run a traditional? Is there much of a learning curve there? Would you say it's more complicated than a traditional, or is it?
Yeah, there are some more buttons to push, and there's some more things to verify. Like we run a pulsing system on the ExactApply systems. You have to make sure that all those things are set correctly before you get started. But it's pretty quick. You're going to find out real quick if you're not doing it right.
Right.
But once that rate is set, and it's going to hold 9.5, unless you've got a plugged filter, or you'll get a warning. But with the operation center and stuff, I can look pretty quick and say, hey man, something's wrong, stop.
Yeah.
We can watch and see what they're doing.
So would you say a guy needs to go through a training class before operating an ExactApply if he's run a broadcast, or would it be more of just you can kind of get in there with him, show him, hey, there's these 2 extra buttons,
yep,
and that's all it is? Or do you think he needs to sit down and take a full training class to go over this?
No, I don't think there needs to be a full training on it. Now, to get to where you're really comfortable with it, maybe, but I think seat time is where you get comfortable with these machines. I sent a guy out for a day to teach a new operator, and he just kind of hung out with him, did a load with him. But within a day, as long as they're pretty quick and they understand the Green Star system. You kind of got to understand the whole entire environment, like the auto track system. If you're bringing somebody up from that point, okay, yeah, there's probably going to need to be more. But now if they understand the auto track system, they understand kind of machinery. Now, hey, we just need to teach them a little spraying and teach them how to run a sprayer. Okay, they could do that in a day. But now if you're bringing them from the ground up, they've never been around a John Deere machine ever, okay, it'll take a week or two.
Right.
To get that, get them comfortable with that.
Sure.
But the other deal we have on the farm here, or in the spraying operation, is the quick draw systems. It mixes the load for you. That's another reason we can bring like a rookie sprayer in. He just has to hit a start button. It's going to mix it for him. So that is also, kind of streamlined our process as far as getting new guys in here and running the sprayer.
Right.
But so the quick draw coupled with a ExactApply sprayer, I'm 100% confident we're going to see the exact amount of chemical we need going out in the field. There's no marking shuttles or looking at different flow meters. I mean, it's just you hit the start button, man, it's done. Just go out there and put the load out. That's how we're making it work here. But I mean, we just went over 8,000 acres in this last push, and we were putting out Warranton Caprol. We were within 1 ounce of what the prescription needed to be, running through 3 different machines.
Wow.
So, I mean, pretty incredible work. I mean, that was a rookie sprayer out running. That was another guy he's relatively new. This is his 2nd year running it. And that was me and another guy kind of tag teaming one sprayer, just trying to keep one going.
Yeah.
But multiple different hands on chemical. New guys, and we're within 1 ounce. I mean, I give it to the ExactApply system, to put it out the right way. So, the technology pays for itself, in my opinion. I mean, over so many acres, no mess, no confusion. It just, you can look at it, it's going to do its job.
Right.
So
one primary benefit that is often referenced with ExactApply is the individual nozzle control versus section control on a conventional sprayer.
Right.
Can you explain how individual nozzle control benefits your operation? Is there a noticeable chemical savings due to this technology?
Yes. Okay, so where I saw the individual nozzle control really shine was in dryland corners on irrigated fields. So we spray our dryland corners in a circle, and it's basically a little triangle on each corner of the field. And as you come out of the field, a section control, the traditional, you'd have however many nozzles, 10, 15 nozzles come out and then shut off. Another 15 nozzles come out and shut off.
So you're getting that stair-step effect.
The stair-step effect, yes. And we're coming in at such a hard angle. There's a lot of overage coming out of the field. We'd mix up for 40 acres to spray one dryland corner, which is normally 35 acres.
Gotcha.
When I go out with an ExactApply sprayer, I'm gonna mix up for, if it's 34 acres, I'll take 34 and a half acres just in case, and we're gonna hit it every time. So there's your 5 acres that we're putting out on every single corner we sprayed, and then ExactApply I'm going to mix up basically for the exact amount that I'm going to need, maybe a little over just in case, but the individual nozzle control is impressive.
Would you say your application speed is faster, slower, or about the same with the ExactApply versus a traditional sprayer? Is it faster or slower? Why is that?
It's going to be the same. I mean, where that comes into effect for me is, we're going to go 12 mile an hour in the field. That's just what our speed is. That's what we like. That's what our crop consultant says. 12 mile an hour, that's what we're going to do. But we can start slower. I don't have to speed up real quick to maintain my pressure as in a traditional sprayer. I can, ease into a field. We're going to maintain our pattern at 45, 50 pounds. We're going to get a good kill on those end rows where we start. But we don't have to push the sprayer real hard in an ExactApply sprayer. We can just run over a rut real easy, run over a terrace real easy. We can slow down, maintain our pattern, maintain our pressure, and I believe you're easier on the equipment with an ExactApply sprayer versus a traditional sprayer. If you want to maintain your pattern, you want to maintain your rate, you got to go fast. You got to go whatever you have your nozzle set at, whatever nozzles you picked, you have to maintain that speed. So you got to go over terrace that quick.
Right.
In an ExactApply sprayer, you don't. You can slow down, ease over it. You're going to pulse, maintain pressure.
Keep going.
Yeah. As far as longevity of the machine, you're treating it a little better. So that's the ExactApply is impressive.
Yeah.
So.
Now, we've kind of already hit on this too, or you have.
Yep.
But do you see more or less or about the same kill quality with the ExactApply versus the traditional broadcast due to the ability to set target pressure?
I believe it does a better job on end rows where you're starting slow. Absolutely. We're going to get the right amount of chemical out on that end row.
So another primary benefit often referenced with ExactApply is turn compensation. Can you explain how turn compensation benefits your operation? Do you see more or less or about the same kill quality spraying circles with turn compensation versus a traditional?
I see about the same. I mean, but I do like the turn compensation when you're going around a tight well or something, you can see less going out on the inside versus, you know, going on the outside. But it's about the same, honestly.
Do you utilize variable rate in your sprayer applications?
I do not right now.
Okay. Regarding longevity and maintenance, what are your concerns with ExactApply ownership over a long period of time? Now, I know we've talked about the wiring harnesses. Is there anything else that you would see over time, maybe other than the wiring harnesses or the nozzles? I mean, is there any worry about, you know, any sensors or anything like that you see maintenance-wise?
We haven't got into them yet, but the cameras on the See and Spray, I don't know where those go. The solenoids in the nozzle bodies, I don't know what the longevity of those are. I mean, after 2 years, do we start seeing those wear down? Do they start leaking by? I don't know on that. The boom, I mean, after 2 years of hard running, I mean, 45,000 acres, going over terraces, hitting the fence post here or there, I mean, do you start seeing cracks in the boom after 2 years? We just haven't. Normally at 2 years, they go on down the road.
Right.
So
hard to say on that.
It's hard to say. I don't know, but I mean, I'm worried about I mean, at 1 year, we're going through the boom, we're looking at the wiring harnesses, and we're seeing like little issues already at 1 year. At 2 years,
who knows?
I mean, things are going to happen every year, you know. I mean, and we're fixing things now on See and Sprays, you know, where nozzle bodies are going bad, or wiring harness here, or wiring harness there.
Right.
I think it's just part of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the wiring, there's tons of wiring on these sprayers, and it's with anything. I mean, wiring is what worries me, because I mean, just one little wire rubbing on a piece of metal is going to short that out, and then you're going to have all sorts of problems. A bunch of gremlins are going to start showing up. So the wiring is what makes me nervous.
Yeah.
We fight that day one out of the box. You know, John Deere's going to have a little nozzle body here that's not going to work, or, you know.
Sure.
It's just part of it.
Sure. So we talked about this a lot in the beginning, or you did. It seemed like to be, you know, one of your favorite parts of it. But your maintenance and cleaning process, definitely different than the conventional.
Yep.
But one more time, can you go ahead and explain that process, how it's different than the traditional?
All right. So when we used to clean traditional sprayers, you know, we would, you know, clean the tank out, clean the boom out. But if we had just put in, you know, a clay compound, atrazine, Caparol, Acuron, you know, whatever we're doing, that chemical would settle out on the bottom of all these traditional booms. And if not, you know, cleaned out, it would hold, you know, 2,4-D, dicamba, any of those contact kill herbicides. It would settle out inside that clay that had built up on the bottom of the traditional boom. So we go into an irrigated field, we're spraying FiberMax, we think we're cleaned out. If you hit a rut, maybe some of that clay breaks loose and it releases a little bit of, you know, enlist. And you see a little bit of 2,4-D burn on your cotton, but we thought we were cleaned out. So we'd bring it in, bring the sprayer in, unfold, pull the boom like completely apart, clean out each individual section, put it all back together, fight leaks for the next couple of days because the clamp didn't get tightened or something shifted when we were running. Finally get it back up and running. So that's about 3 days worth of cleaning on a traditional rig if everything went good. We go into a ExactApply sprayer, and we have boom recirculation. Clay chemicals, you know, stay in suspension because they're constantly moving. If that sprayer stops and you're not spraying, the boom recirc kicks on, and it's just going to start pushing chemical through the boom, back into the tank, back into the boom, back into the tank. It's just constantly moving. It doesn't settle out. We go into a cleaning. We need to clean the sprayer up. We're going to start spraying some contact herbicides. We're going to, you know, clean the tank out. It's going to run that tank rinse through the boom, back into the tank, and now we're clean. You know, we do 3 triple rinse. We run a little bit of tank cleaner, and then we're ready to go, clean the filters, and we're off to the races. I've opened up the booms on these boom recircs. There is no clay building up on the bottom of that boom. It's clean. Very impressive. I mean, we're done in half a day. And I don't have to pull the boom apart. We don't have to open anything up.
So half a day on the ExactApply.
Yeah.
On a traditional, you may be down a couple of days.
Yeah, a couple of days, just like
for
we open the boom up, we clean it, but then that just opens up another set of problems. You know, all those seals we just took out, now we put them all back in.
Are they good? Are they bad?
If somebody put it in there, you know, cockeyed or crooked, it's going to leak. So now we got to stop, fix that. Okay, get back to it. Now we think we're good. Hit a bump. Something else shifts. Now we got another little problem. We might just be chasing problems for the next couple days. But for a full day, we're down, and that's normally when the wind's not blowing. That's when it's nice and it's super nice outside, and I'm having to clean the sprayer out. We need to be running.
Right.
With an ExactApply system, we can start that morning, get it cleaned up. We're ready to go in the field that afternoon.
Right.
So it's just sped up our process. We can stay clean, and it's just nice. So it's just really impressive.
Well, I think I know the answer to this next question, but with the concerns and everything that we've talked about, you know, we've talked about all the good, we've talked about some of the bad. With all the concerns we've talked about, would there be any chance that you would ever go back to traditional over the ExactApply system?
Unless the price or something changes, that we're going to stick with ExactApply sprayers. I mean, we're all comfortable with them. I can bring, you know, young guys up here and they can run it. I mean, I can set it for them and they can run it, and I'm comfortable knowing that they're going to be hitting that rate every single time.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to stick with ExactApply.
So would you highly recommend to other operators to definitely look into the ExactApply system? I mean, if you had other people that you knew were running acreage like you were that wasn't taking advantage of the technology, what would you say to them about? I mean, what would you say on recommending the ExactApply?
The cleaning process is the biggest deal for us, and the pattern. The maintaining the pattern are two of the big things. And I would tell operators that. I'm like, you know, you don't have to worry about, you know, the contamination issues. It cleans out really well, and you know, ease of operation. You know, you could bring another guy in here and you can run the machine if you need it. Very easy to operate, and just pattern control and maintaining your pressure, even if you're going slow. Because a new guy getting in a machine that's 120 foot wide, they're going to be real nervous about it. They don't know where they don't have that depth perception. They don't have the feel as an operator who's been doing it for a few years. So if what concerns people is all the wiring and the nozzle frustrations and things like that, there's a lot of things that outweigh that issue. We're happy with ExactApply sprayers, and I would recommend it to people.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Why'd you originally make the switch to See & Spray Ultimate? And would you say it made a positive impact on your operation? And what are some of the pros and cons of the See & Spray Ultimate?
Well, we decided to try the See & Spray out because we were having to travel across our cotton so many times to try to kill weeds. We thought that maybe if we could go across the cotton crop maybe multiple times, but actually just hit the weeds, maybe we could, save a little bit on chemical. It's not about cutting back on chemical, but just making it more sustainable. We want to be effective when we go into the field. We want to spray the weeds that are up and try to kill them. And we can, go out, at the first sign of a weed that's coming up. There's going to be more weeds that are coming up. We're going to go out and then hit it, sooner, because once a weed is past, a certain point, over 6 inches tall. Out here on the farm, these weeds are pretty much unkillable. So we've got to hit them small to try to take care of them. So with the See & Spray, as soon as there's a sign of a weed or a sign of kochia coming up, we're going to go out there and hit it. With it in a traditional sense, we try to wait until we saw them at a certain point, at a certain limit, then we're going to go out. With the See & Spray, we can push that limit, maybe do it a lot sooner, but we're saving a little bit of chemical.
Right.
What were the other questions?
Pros and cons of See & Spray?
Pros are definitely the seeing the weed, killing the weed, starting earlier. It's earlier stages and hitting them. The cons right now are we can't spray into the evening. We've got to. We only have a certain amount of time. And here in Texas, it gets hot real quick, so we only have basically the morning that we can spray.
Right.
Once it gets above 100 degrees, weeds don't take in chemical, and they start shutting down, and chemicals don't work past 100 degrees.
Right.
So,
what would you say top 3 reasons are that somebody should consider See and Spray?
the top 3 reasons, and I might only have 2 right now, but the top 2 for me would be the chemical savings, but the sustainability of the chemical. Instead of broadcasting Roundup and Enlist or Roundup everywhere on stuff where there's no weeds, I mean, you're kind of drifting that onto a fence row, or we're putting out so much Roundup and 2,4-D or Enlist that maybe we're not getting an effective kill on something that's really close by. Well, with the See and Spray, it's only going to spray if it sees a weed. So we're not going to see this chemical, floating around and just damaging a weed maybe right on the edge of the field. So we might see, we're already there. We're already seeing weeds that are untouchable. That kochia is tolerant to Roundup and Enlist or 2,4-D, dicamba. So chemical savings is a big one. But maybe, when we're only spraying weeds that are up, and we're not just, broadcasting it over 250 acres, maybe we won't see the, maybe if new chemicals come out, maybe those chemicals will last longer.
You're not seeing as much built-up tolerance
Yeah.
for these weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
I mean,
sustainability
because-
you mean
yeah.
is the sustainability of that chemical working to that weed.
Yeah,
Because
it's
we're not putting as much on it. We're
Yeah.
not,
We're applying it more accurately.
Right.
We're not letting it just kind of float around the field. I'm not saying that's what it's doing, but the reason that I think we see these issues, that this tolerance issue, or is because, like on fence rows where it kind of got a little drift on it, those weeds didn't die. Now they start putting off seed, and then they blow back into our field, and now we have 2,4-D resistant weeds, or
right.
things like that. So now we just apply it to certain parts of the field where there's weeds and where there's pressure. We just don't have it all floating around. So those are that's the way I'm looking at it right now, is a sustainability point. And
Makes
maybe
sense.
another deal is, and this is all me sitting in a cab thinking about this, but maybe new chemicals will shake out with the See and Spray. Maybe it'll be a See and Spray chemical only, but maybe we could get some new things coming to market with the See and Spray technology. So it's just exciting to think about. I haven't heard of anything like that happening, but with the See and Spray technology, when we're only applying 20 or 30% of a field, we're not broadcasting it everywhere. Maybe we could look at new chemicals, maybe where chemicals we couldn't use early on because we couldn't apply it to everything. Hey, but if we're only applying it to 20 or 30% of the field, hey, maybe something shakes out. Maybe we can make something work. But would that chemical be really expensive? Probably, because it's got to be in See and Spray and
Sure.
stuff like that. But
Sure.
it's just I'm sitting here thinking about it like, hey, it's working. See and Spray is nice. We're saving chemical. We're saving water. When we go out to a field and we're See and Spraying at 20 gallons an acre, and we're only spraying 20% of the field, we're basically only spraying at 4 gallons an acre. So
Right.
it's just, we're almost going back to what it was 10, 15 years ago, when we could go across a field at lower gallons and get really good results with Roundup and everything. So we just see improved efficiency. We're seeing the weed, we're spraying the weed. And from a sustainability point, we're not broadcasting
Yeah.
Roundup or Liberty, Enlist all over the place. We're just applying it to what needs it.
Hopefully not making these weeds
Yep,
resistant to
that's
that
it.
chemical.
Absolutely.
Right.
So-
Right. So See and Spray is another costly technology,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Can you discuss the cost savings of the technology? Does one outweigh the other? Do you think the technology, once again, this kind of goes back to our question of the exact apply.
Yep.
Do you think, in essence, does the technology pay for itself by the savings that you're seeing? Or not even the savings,
so-
but also maybe savings on labor,
Yeah.
chemical, water, all the things that we kind of talked about. Basically, do you think it's worth it?
It does save money, because we'll look at this. We went to a field way south of our headquarters. It's way southwest. It takes about 45 minutes to get there if you're driving. we had to apply 20 gallons an acre to an 800-acre field. We've got a little water storage out there. So normally I have to bring, there's going to be one guy driving a sprayer, and then there's going to be another guy that's going to have to haul water in a semi out there to keep that truck going, to keep that sprayer going. We ran the See and Spray technology. We applied it 4 gallons an acre because we only sprayed 20% of the field. So I don't even have to run a semi out there. I had enough water on that truck for that whole day for one guy. He was able to run there all day. So that eliminated labor, and we got 1,600 acres done in a day.
Wow.
Without having to run water to keep him going. We didn't have to run a skid steer up there to reload his chemical because we didn't have to use that much chemical. So it definitely pays for itself. But it depends on the crop you're in. You've got to look at all that too.
Right.
So in that case, it's fallow ground, 20%. It worked out. It was great. It was awesome. So no crop.
Would you be willing to discuss the approximate chemical savings? Do you have an idea percentage-wise just of what you think you've seen, in savings from having See and Spray versus whenever you were broadcasting?
Yeah. So on average, I'd be pretty comfortable to say we're around 45%, 50%.
Wow.
Chemical savings, just running the technology. There's some fields that are pretty bad, and we can we kind of get into the cost per acre to the crop we're in,
Sure.
The licensing fee. So all that kind of, you've got to look at all this. When John Deere announced the licensing fee or the technology fee on the See and Spray, you've got to look at the chemical you're spraying. You got to look at the price breakdown on that. Like, how expensive is it going to be? And if you're in cotton and it's $5 an acre, I believe it's gone down now. I don't know that number right off the top of my head right now, but last year was $5 an acre. So you could only go in if you're spraying over 80% of a field, and that all depends on the mix and how much your chemical is. But if you're spraying over 80% of the field, it's cheaper to go out and broadcast that field. So we have to watch that. So if it's over, if it's over 80%, we're shutting the See and Spray off, and we're going to broadcast it traditionally.
Gotcha.
But on average, what we see is around 50%.
So what you're saying is that with the licensing fees and stuff that are out there, because those are
Yeah.
going to be my next questions,
Yeah.
it doesn't always pencil out in your favor
No,
to
it
use
does
See and
not.
Spray.
No, you've
Sometimes
got
it's better to go back to traditional
Absolutely.
broadcasting.
Yes. And that all depends on the mix, though. Like, if you're spraying cotton, we say around 80%. If you're spraying over 80% of the field, shut the See and Spray off and broadcast that field. But now, hey, if you're in fallow ground, you're spraying no crop, you could be running 95%, and you're going to be saving some money. But it just depends on the mix, and it depends on how much how much the operator is charging to run that machine. Everybody's been doing a little different. We all try to get on the same page, but it just depends on the price.
Right.
But no crop, 95%. If you're in cotton, 85%. If you're over that, just broadcast it.
Yeah.
And then, but that's all what's out there in the field. Do you have a bunch of volunteer milo? Do you have a bunch of bindweeds in the field? Those it keeps the See and Spray on longer is what I've found. The bindweeds kind of spread out, so the boom never really shuts off. It just is constantly spraying.
So therefore, you may as well be broadcasting.
Yeah. And it all just depends on the field. The operator's going to know the field, or the farmer. He's going to say, oh yeah, it's over in that area is where there's some bindweed, so it's going to be a little higher on that edge. But say you come back around on the north side, and it's a little bit cleaner. There's some kochia and some milo and stuff like that up. That's going to do a pretty nice job. But the licensing fee kind of came out of nowhere on us, or the technology fee came out of nowhere. We weren't really expecting that, so we're not really happy with the technology fee. I get where they're coming from. I understand why they have to do it. It didn't really work in our favor. We were hoping to see a little more savings, but everybody's going to, get their money.
Right. Sure.
So.
Sure. No, I totally understand.
Yeah.
So moving on to operators, we talked about this with the Exact Apply. Back to that learning curve. If you put a new operator in a See and Spray machine with See and Spray Ultimate, is it harder for a new operator to run that machine, or is it Is it one of those things where they need to take a full training class, or is it another deal like we talked about the ExactApply? You could hop in with one guy, run for one day, and he's pretty much got it down.
Again, I mean, you're kind of building though here. So if you take a guy from a traditional sprayer, put him in ExactApply, and then throw him into a See & Spray all in that same time, there's going to be a little learning curve there. He's got to figure out, okay, how are these ExactApplies going to work? How does that system work? And then you throw the See & Spray at it. It's just the setup to get a See & Spray going and making sure all the VPUs are on and making sure all that stuff works. Is it a day for an operator that's been around the machines? Absolutely, yes, you can do that. But if they're not familiar with the technology and they're not familiar with John Deere machinery, with the AutoTrack system and stuff like that, it's going to take a few days. Unless they're good with computers. I mean, that's what I found. If they're good around computers and they're good with technology and they can, they can pick up a phone real quick and get through things, they're going to pick this stuff up pretty quick.
Right.
Troubleshooting some things over the phone is definitely possible. I mean, they can call me and we can walk through it. With the Operations Center, again, you can RDA into that screen and walk them through, like, hey, go to this, hit this button. It's all doable. I mean, from the phone or from afar, you can get a guy in there and get going.
Right.
But he's got to have some, he's got to have a little sprayer background. I can't throw a guy that's only ran a tractor on a See & Spray and say, hey, yeah, just hit that button, it's good to go.
Right.
There is training, absolutely. So,
Gotcha.
But now a month-long course for a guy that's never ran a machine ever, it just depends on him, or the guy, him or her, whoever's running it. Having a little technology background is definitely helpful and speedy to get these guys up into these machines.
Makes sense.
So,
makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, See & Spray Premium is now an available option, single tank option, with the same technology.
Yep.
Now, your machine is an Ultimate,
Yes.
which has the dual tank setup. Is dual tank necessary for your operation, and how do you use it?
Okay. So I was talking early on this year. We ran the dual tank last year. Our cotton failed out last year when we had the See & Spray for the first year. We didn't really get to use it. So in the back of my mind, I just thought the dual tank was not unnecessary, but just like didn't really see a fit. Well, speed up to this year, we're going into a bunch of dry land cotton planting, and we aren't going to want to plow this stuff. We put on an early pre-emerge, held the weeds great, and we didn't want to go into plowing, tilling or anything. So bring in the See & Spray Ultimate, the dual tank system. No crop. You can run your pre-emerge through your 750 gallon tank. We were spraying it around 30 or 40%, getting across about 100 acres of load. Awesome. It worked great. I mean, the $1 an acre, no crop charge, it worked out. It was an awesome system. But if you talked to me in March, I never thought we'd really use it to that degree. But if it's set up right and you don't have a whole lot of weeds out in the field, if you're around that 40%, it's going to work really nice. Now, if you're spraying 80 or 90% of the field and you're having to go back and fill up your See & Spray tank, before you can even get a broadcast load out, that doesn't work.
Right.
So you've got to maintain the dry land field in order to make that dual tank really shine. If the weed is just a complete mess, if the field is just a complete mess of weeds, that's not going to work.
Yeah. So Premium has less expensive upfront costs. And so would you say the versatility of the dual tank outweighs the savings of having that Premium? Like if you had a broadcast machine and you were putting Premium on it, do you think the savings that you're getting out of your dual tank having the Ultimate, do you think it would outweigh just putting Premium onto a regular broadcast machine? I know that's a tough one.
Well, it's like, we're doing 2 passes with this one rig, and I can run, chemicals that would normally affect a pre-emerge in one pass. So, absolutely, this is going to save us money.
Yeah.
Because if I was wanting to do send the Premium out and go See & Spray it, now turn around and then we're going to come back in and broadcast it. If that's the route you're wanting to go, We had pretty clean fields going into it, and that if you're dual tanking, I absolutely think that you're going to save money with the Ultimate. I mean, we went across every dryland acre we had, and great control, great kill. I mean, it did really nice. And in March, I was talking to a guy. I was like, I don't think we'd ever really use that technology. And speed up to April 15, we start doing some corn, and then we start talking about planting dryland cotton. Hey, we're going to do this. Oh, awesome. Okay, let's try this out. And I mean, and everything, it worked really nice. I was super impressed with it. I mean, we're looking into it again.
Yeah.
I mean, but in March we were talking about doing something else. Like out on the dual tank, it causes confusion for a new loader. Or for a new sprayer operator.
Right.
You've got to pay attention to what you're doing. You got your 450 gallon tank, you got your 750 gallon tank. If you put your 450 gallon load in the 750, that's okay. You can add another 300 gallons. But you put your 750 in the 450, now we got problems.
Right.
Now you got a super high dose of chemical in the 450 gallon tank.
Right.
But not enough water in there to justify, So you've got to pay attention. Now, the quick draw, well, we'll go back to that. That has simplified the process. You can, type in 450, type in 750, we're loaded up quick.
Yeah.
Now, if you're running a traditional style, loading system, that might be a little different. I'm not saying it's tough and it's impossible to do, but you have to do two separate calculations for every tank.
Right.
So the quick draw has sped that process up, and I'm pretty comfortable with putting a new operator in to a See and Spray Ultimate and doing that. But dual tank system is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an impressive technology.
So you've talked about it a little bit, just very briefly, but how is Operations Center utilized in your operation using See and Spray?
We go back there for billing. We use it for billing. We go back to check our acres. We can see what chemicals we put out. We try to do our best to put the chemicals in the work setup. That way we kind of know what we put out. We can go back and verify it. But Operations Center is just a huge asset to just check on new operators. I mean, just going back and saying, hey, something looks a little fishy here. What happened, or what's going on, before we keep going to the next field and the next field. And then, I didn't get on that machine and go through his computer. I was able to get on Operations Center on my phone, verify his rates are checking out, and I can talk to him and say, hey, that last load you put out looked like it was a little short. What happened? And we can fix a problem that much faster.
Right.
But Operations has been a huge asset as far as training new guys and keeping an eye on them from afar. And while I run my machine, I can check on them.
Right. So we talked about this about Exact Apply. Regarding longevity and maintenance, what are your concerns with See and Spray ownership over a long period of time?
I would just have to go back to the wiring. Just harnesses just kind of falling apart. I mean, it's just part of it. I mean, these machines are running through a field at 12 mile an hour, going over bumps, going over terraces. Things are moving, things are folding up, things get tight. Something might have shifted, and then you might have pulled a little connector out or something. And tracing down a single pin in a connector in a harness, it's just time consuming. And longevity wise, I mean, I'd be looking at 2 years, and I'd be kind of on the fence. Like, I mean, we're in our second year with these.
Yeah.
Or we're starting. This is going to be their second year. And
are you seeing anything camera wise? Any type?
I haven't seen any camera issues yet.
Or with your CPUs that are.
Yes. So I've seen some internal fragmented memory. So I have to clear the computers. I mean, after I do 500 or 600 acres in a See and Spray machine, if we're dual tanking especially, I delete everything off of it, because it's just like it's too much memory for the Gen 4 screens. I'm seeing like it just gets real laggy when you're dual tanking. Now, if you're just See and Spraying, like See and Spraying with the full tank, like both systems, it'll run fine. But I mean, you watch what all it's trying to do. I mean, it's maintaining pressure on this one pump at a certain rate. It's maintaining pressure on the other pump at a certain rate. It's trying to map each individual spot where it's sprayed, and then on top of it, it's doing the same thing for the broadcast. It's painting the broadcast line.
And then it's running also the 2,200 square foot on each camera.
Yeah, and I mean, and they're talking. I mean, it's so much information. I mean, it's impressive that it can do it now, but there definitely needs to be an improvement in that area going forward.
Right.
But running it for our second year, we've learned some tricks here and there on how to, because I've gotten into a field where I got rained out, had to come back a couple days later, and I'd gone see and sprayed or dual tanked some other stuff. And I come back to that field and I load it up and it says fragmented, and you get to the spot where you thought you stopped, and then the computer crashes. And it's because it's just too much information.
Right.
So you have to clear it all out. Well, then you just lost 350 acres of coverage. And now we're just kind of guessing like, oh, I think I started about right here. So if you're running the Gen 4, I'd recommend just keeping that computer clean.
Yeah.
After 500 acres of a dual tank application, delete it off. I mean, it's all in the Operations Center. Verify it's an Operations Center, but clear your computers.
Yeah.
Because that's definitely got me in a couple binds. And but that's what we've learned.
Yeah.
So
2 more quick ones.
Yep.
So right now, See and Spray is set up for corn, cotton, soybeans.
Mm-hmm.
Any other crops out there that you're seeing that you would like to see be added to that technology? I know that where we're at in this part of the world, those 3 are kind of king.
Yep.
Obviously, wheat would be amazing down the line, but I think we're a long ways from that.
Yeah.
Any other row crops that you think would be an addition to that?
Milo at some point I think would be nice, like seed milo stuff. Not a lot of chemicals you could spray in those that would really be worth it. We found last year that corn and milo look pretty close to the same, so you can kind of trick a See and Spray to making that work. But that makes that arises a new problem. I go into a cornfield that's got volunteer milo. Well, I just want to put a little Roundup out there. If we're in corn, milo looks like corn. Is it gonna spray that volunteer milo, or is it just gonna pass right over it? There's a couple things here and there. What I would like to see is I want to go after a certain weed. I don't want to just look for cotton and not spray cotton, or I don't want to not spray corn. I want to spray just kochia.
So you'd like to see it reversed?
I would like to see it reversed.
Where you could pick.
Yep.
Where you could spray a certain weed, or you could just not spray a certain crop.
Yep. Because there are times when we have to go out and put clethodim out, and clethodim is going to kill volunteer corn in cotton. Well, clethodim won't touch bind weeds. It's not going to touch a kochia. That's just, again, we're just kind of broadcasting chemical out there that's not going to do anything. So what if we say, I just want to spray corn, and then we go into cotton and we're just going to spray the corn. Like, we're not going to spray cotton, but we do want to spray corn. We just select that. But the other day we put clethodim out on a field, and then we're going to go in and See and Spray. Well, if we could have done this, like, we don't want to spray, if we could have just selected corn and cotton at the same time, we could have ran across that field and not reapplied on the corn that had already been sprayed with clethodim, because clethodim takes about 2 to 3 weeks to get a good kill on volunteer corn. It's a really slow kill. So we went across all of that, and we resprayed the corn with the Liberty Enlist that we were putting out. It's just, if we could have said, hey, look for corn and cotton, don't spray it, we could have saved a little bit more money.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm just sitting in the seat, watching what it's going to spray, knowing what the chemical's going to do. We just need to put in, what would solve all the problems is just type in what we want to spray.
Right.
Select what we're going to go after. Instead of, hey, let's look for cotton and not spray it, let's just look for weeds.
Yeah.
And just spray weeds.
I like
that would be the route I hope we go next.
Right. So once again, I think I know the answer to this question too, but
Yep.
What would you recommend this to other operators, or which operators would you recommend See and Spray to?
If they're willing to try it and they're willing to go down the road, there's a lot of technology, and I'm not going to say with a lot of technology there doesn't come some problems, but the See and Spray has a fit. It's a very helpful piece of technology. We've been very happy with it. I don't know what that acre breakdown is, like how many acres you need to run over to make that thing work. Last year it worked great for us in a no cotton year, but I would definitely recommend it if people are wanting to give it a shot. It's an awesome piece of technology to give a chance on the farm.
Man, that's all the questions I've got. Brett, thanks so much.
You bet.
lots of great information there. So guys, as you heard here, that was Brett Friemel from Friemel Family Farms, customer of Western Equipment. They use these machines all the time. So if you're watching this and you have had questions about these machines, or you're not quite sure if you want to push this out to your customers or not, hopefully a lot of those questions were answered here. If not, make sure to get in touch with me. I can get you in touch with Brett or with somebody that knows more about this product so that we can help you get that information so you can get it out there to your customers. Hope that you guys enjoyed this. If so, make sure to let us know so we can bring you more content like this, and we'll see you next time.